Welcome to the Washdown podcast, and today's guest is Tyler Grosser. Tyler is a firefighter and is also a member of the Federal Search and Rescue Task Force. So we had a great conversation talking about that, mental health in the fire service, and just some things that, need to change and, some avenues forward. Jarrett Blanton stopped by to guest host with us. So we had a great time shooting this episode. Hope you guys enjoy it. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. And here you go, the Washdown podcast with guest Tyler Grosser. This is how we start the show, is we just push the record button, start having a conversation, and then at some point...
We forgot to give the heads up on that one.
Yeah.
We're hot.
Yeah.
Forgot to give the heads up. Jeremy's bad.
That's my fault.
He's the host. He's in charge. The dictator.
Not a dictator. Self-appointed emperor.
Mm-hmm. You're splitting hairs, man.
I mean, details matter, Chris. You just said that like 2 hours ago.
Yeah, you're a dictator. Just because you want to call yourself something different doesn't mean it's accurate. You're a dick and you're a tater. You're a dictator.
I'm not sure if that's how that works.
He's the only one that makes decisions.
That's
why I'm still sitting here. I can't quit.
Hashtag fire Chris.
He won't fire me.
Well, Tyler, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
I bet you're regretting it right about now, aren't you?
Absolutely. Sweet. I'm not alone. I regret saying yes every day.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, so introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background. We'll go from there.
My name's Tyler Grosser. Work on a rescue company in the city. Been at the Middle Rescue Company for about 6 months. And before that, worked on another one for 10 years. And kind of have a long history with rescue stuff. Do some federal side rescue stuff. Work some dogs and got my fingers in some other parts of that world, drones and a few different things. But feel like I can give you a good picture of maybe how the mental health stuff works on that end of the spectrum. It's a little bit different. And maybe pick up some things to implement or things to think about that I've seen in other places, and kind of talk about some of the mindset stuff that needs to change or we could work on for everybody to get better. But that's kind of my take on, that's my perspective.
Jarrett, put the hat on.
Put the hat on?
Yeah, I threw a hat to you. It's behind you.
Oh, so I can be the cool kid? Hold on.
No, because there's a hell of a glare coming off your dome.
My shiny dome.
Yeah.
You can make 3 wishes. You just got to be real careful.
That's why I got to wear a hat when I'm on camera now. I'm too bald.
You know what? I do like this hat, I will admit.
Yeah, I'm getting that back.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
It is a nice hat. It's comfortable, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love that hat. Looks good on you, too.
All right, guys. This is like Fashion Week. How do I look?
Yep.
Yeah, you look good.
A little pose here and there.
Unfortunately, you look very Kansas Jayhawk right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Rockin' chalkin', baby. Rockin' chalkin'.
Not a fan.
All right, so Tyler, sorry for the interruption.
No, you're good.
Sorry about that, man.
You're good.
Pardon the interruption.
had to be addressed.
The glare was just too much.
I don't want to blind you guys.
Well, and what's funny is last time you were on, we had to do the same thing.
That's true.
Had to run upstairs and get a hat for you.
Oh, gosh. I should know this by now.
Well,
It's like going on a biking trip and not bringing a helmet. Like,
Yeah.
Hey, anybody got a helmet?
Yeah.
No, you're supposed to bring it.
Yeah. Proper preparation.
PPE is everything, man.
PPE. That's right.
You don't want to blind anybody.
So continue.
Yeah, so that's it. It's just a little bit different perspective, namely from the mental health aspect of it. But I think the culture itself around us is kind of drives a lot of that negativity and perpetuates our, the problems that manifest into bigger deals later.
How so?
I just think that the culture that we seem to have promoted over years has become kind of a negative rhetoric, in all honesty, in a lot of ways. And so I think that doesn't help people's ability to cope. That does not promote any kind of positive atmosphere to overcome anything. So I think that's one of the biggest differences, in all honesty, is on the federal side of things, they obviously take this to a different level. But I think the fire department's culture is namely the biggest hurdle that we have to overcome, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But the negativity definitely doesn't help. And so I think if we can change that, that's kind of a mission that we've been on with the circle of people that I'm around. Typically, we've been working pretty hard to change that, and to anybody that comes around us, promoting positivity or showing them it's okay to be positive or be into the job or want to do different things or look at things a little bit different than maybe we have in the past. So it's been an interesting journey for the last little while here, but unfortunately, it's kind of like the deeper you dig, the worse it gets.
Yeah. Familiar with that.
Yeah. I mean, the first 10 years were bliss, and then it's kind of been all downhill from there. But we're trying to pull it back up, and made some pretty good moves as of recently. So, some big projects are coming out, and hopefully that does some good. Unfortunately, that doesn't affect everybody. It's a small group.
Yeah. Well, but on that note, though, what you can accomplish with a small group whenever, and we've kind of talked about this whenever we've done leadership podcasts, is you instill those values and beliefs and all that stuff in your small group, and then as people start to migrate out, they take that with them.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's one of the big things that the head shed, if you will, has been pretty adamant about in our dealings recently, is transitioning away from the consistent hey, you got to be this part of this group or part of that group to participate in all these different things, and so the inclusivity, the keyword inclusivity, is probably going to come into play a little bit going forward. And I know that that's been something that they have stressed with us, is that, hey, whatever you guys try to do, this is what we need. Yeah. And so, it's like a secret society it's been one of the most bizarre experiences in my life. But you've got cliques and groups and then you have to form your own group.
Yeah.
And that's the weird part. But nonetheless, as long as you're working for the right reasons and to make things better for everybody, then I think that it's widely accepted. I don't know that there's any other way to go about it, but that's kind of what's been being pushed, is the inclusivity thing. So going forward, we always have that in mind, and we're going to start pulling people in from other parts of the job to be allowed to work in these capacities and do different things. And I think that that's a lot of the reason, we continue to struggle with getting people, especially getting good people, it seems. But, we have to make it appealing enough.
Yeah. Do you think part of that is just because people don't understand of what you guys actually do and the importance, really? Of what you're doing?
No, I think education is huge. I think that's a massive, massive part of it, in all honesty. But I mean, not just I think you could say that for the people that are in the division, honestly. I mean, to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can go down a rocky road that I can tell you about to explain kind of how we got here. It's kind of a pretty well-defined timeline. But that being said, yes, the educational aspect of everything related to technical rescue is massive. I would say probably 50% of the job has no idea.
Yeah.
And you know, that's just that has to be a priority to go out and educate people and like I said, get people more involved, provide opportunities for people to be involved, and then that goes all the way up the food chain. You know, it doesn't stop just at the company level, or I mean, we have a massive misunderstanding at the very top notches of our organization. So I think that that's another big priority for us to go out and educate people about what it is we do or what we should be doing. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
But you know, and the educational part of it doesn't stop even with, you know, even interdepartmentally. The educational part needs to go way outside of that. You know, our programs haven't been funded by the city since their inception. And so we have to rely on getting funding from other sources. We can't do cool stuff without having money. So
Yeah.
If they're not educated about what we're doing, you know,
Then they're not going to
give us any money.
Not going to open up the purse strings.
Right. So that's another thing that we've tried to initiate as of recently. And believe it or not, man, there's plenty of money out there. You just got to know where to get it. So,
Yeah.
So I think those are some of the key initiatives that we're pushing forward towards. And how that relates to mental health is, you know, as scary as it might be to think about, I think we have a massive mental health crisis on our hands.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, not just as it relates to critical incident type stuff. I'm saying I think we have a massive mental health crisis just in general, overall. I mean, we have, it's not, we don't live in a healthy environment, period.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a huge detriment. So, you know, it's kind of a roundabout way to get there, but by doing all these different things, I think that it will help, hopefully, in that. The proper mindset is everything, but it's a hard road. It's not widely accepted. It's not widely accepted, and it's you know, growing pains always hurt for a while. So
Yeah.
you gotta kind of push through that, and you know, we've been working towards this for a better part of 10 years. So.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier is, you know, kind of having the destination in mind and getting the steps laid out to get there, and then crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's, and going, this is what we need to do. And then making people, you know, understand, communicating that effectively to the people who make the decisions and, you know, the rest of the job in general of, hey, this is what we're doing. This is where we're going. This is, you know.
So I think what we found is, in talking to a lot of different people, everybody's kind of begging for it in a lot of ways. Everybody knows that we need to change, or there's things that they want to change, or whatever. But taking the initiative to institute the changes is the hard part. You know, everybody will, you know, possibly jump on board. It's all about the people who don't really want to be in the public's eye of initiating it, or be seen as being that guy, or whatever, you know. But that's part of the problem. That's part of the stigma, you know, that we've got people to believe that they can't speak, you know, what they feel for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So that's a big hurdle. I think that we'll get more followers once the naysayers, you know, either fade off or go away. But
do you see it being better or worse with the newer generations coming in? Like openness to talking about mental health and proactive and all that.
What I've noticed is that they come in as a clean slate, and so maybe not a clean slate. I mean, some people have experience from other places, but by and large, it's whoever gets their hands on it first. In all honesty, and those, it's kind of like a young dog or a young child. Those initial impressions are long lasting, and so, however they're indoctrinated into our culture is how they will continue to usually think about things. It seems, at least that's kind of been the deal. And you can open their eyes later and change perceptions or change ways of thinking, but that is much, much more difficult than it is to instill that initial thought process right off the bat. So unfortunately, it's going to take a wide change in mindset to do that effectively, I think. But we'll get there. It's a slow process.
Slow burn.
It's a slow process. Changing culture, is like moving mountains.
Yeah.
So.
And we've talked about that it's like, look, we see there needs to be a change.
Oh, yeah.
And, okay, well, the way that we're all geared is, okay, let's change it.
Right.
Cool. All right.
Now what?
Yeah. We're problem solvers. And, whenever we show up on a scene, it's, okay, we're here for 10, 15, 20 minutes, sometimes an hour. And we've fixed or mitigated whatever was going on.
Right.
Why can't this be the same? No.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work that way.
Had I known 10 years ago that the road was going to look like this, I would have ran away. There's no way I would have continued to push on. But once you get in so deep, you just go. But it is one of the hardest things I've ever tried to push for in my life, and one of the most frustrating for sure. But it has to happen sooner or later. Otherwise, it's just the ship is gonna sink eventually. So I think that it needs to be hopefully something that everybody picks up on and realizes that it's at our own expense at some point. So,
Tyler, I have a question for you. Because I know you've had a lot of training with federal teams and stuff like that, and obviously with different departments across the nation, I'm sure they all have their own, whatever they would offer for mental health services. Do you feel, or have you noticed any difference working with the federal teams as opposed to like local departments?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just kind of paint a picture for you. If you think about it, like, let's go back to 9/11. There's very few major events that happen in the country, but when they do, they are, right? They're big deals. So the majority of our said customers are hurricanes. So hurricanes can be pretty destructive, but the amount of, let's call it critical incident stress that come out of them from the responders is fairly low. I mean, you're just really dealing with a bunch of destruction. Mm-hmm. You're not typically dealing with a huge loss of life or having to see anything too crazy. So it's the Surfsides, the 9/11s. Those are huge. Katrina, those type of events. Those are massive impactors to the people that go to them. And so they've recognized this, and they've instituted their own way of implementing the mental health side of things. And what's interesting is it took, realistically, I mean, Katrina was kind of a game changer for a lot of things, but so was 9/11. I mean, 9/11 may have been the major game changer. I don't know. But, you've got, 100 people per team times, as far as 9/11 goes, there are all 28 teams there. So, I mean, you got a lot of people, and I mean, you have people that are visibly struggling at the time, and then you got people that are going to struggle later. But nowadays, they have an entire organization in its own right for it in place. So in the federal system, you have the regular teams, they go out, and then the command structure portion of everything is called IST, or Instant Support Teams. And so they'll deploy out and, provide that support and that structure. And one of the components of that is the mental health component. So they'll set up basically clinics, mental health clinics, essentially, that you can come to if, and then they will have people that go out actually and go out to wherever you've set up your base of operations, and they'll come out and talk to people. And then if you engage in some type of a mission that is, obviously recognized as something critical, they'll force it. And so you don't, at that point, you have to kind of go through the program,
So for the most
not
part,
really your option.
Yeah, for the most part, it's voluntary, but
For the most
certain
part,
things,
yeah,
it's,
they'll force it. They'll
Yeah.
force it. At some point they will, for sure. They've instituted some other ideas too. In Florida last year, they were bringing around therapy dogs to all the teams. That was interesting. That was the first time I've seen that. But they definitely have a good pulse on it, and are pushing forward with some interesting ideas that I think we have some of those components in place, but I don't think that we are forceful enough with it, because let's face it, I think guys, whether it be on the federal side or the fire side, guys don't typically want to volunteer to do that stuff. And so you just kind of have to make it non-optional at some point, But it's a fine line, and it's a sticky topic, with people. But when I say forcing it on people, you can only force people so far, obviously. But you might get a psychologist that comes and talks to you, and you're going to turn down the conversation. The culture in that and on the other side of the fence is so different.
Yeah.
You don't have people that are willing to, just be belligerent. so there's that. But yeah, they're going to come talk to you whether you want them to or not, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And they might make an assessment, and if you just say you don't want to talk to them, I guess they'd probably flag you as having a problem, to be honest, and they might pull you out. That's ultimately the biggest thing, and they do it regularly. In Florida, the last deployment we went on, which was Hurricane Ian, we had a mental health crisis there with one of our people, major, and this person wasn't even somebody out in the field necessarily. So it was somebody that kind of stayed back at the base of operations and did planning stuff, and evidently they had a history of some stuff that they didn't really divulge, and so I don't know what the catalyst was, to be honest with you, but whatever it is, kind of spin them off into a headspace that was not good, and then they became MIA, and that turns into a major thing. So we got her tracked down, and then it was 24-hour overwatch. Basically had doctors and mental health professionals in our camp, so to speak, for the rest of the deployment, which that just, I guess, goes to show you that they have a plan, and they're not going to risk anything at that point, which is good. But at the same time, completely unexpected and out of the blue.
Yeah, but it's nice that they have a plan and they implemented it because,
Right.
I mean, you know as well as I do, the whole goal whenever you're going to do something like that is to not become part of the emergency.
Yeah, for
You-
sure.
you're
And we
there.
did.
Yeah.
And we did that day. We
Yeah.
did. And it kind of caught everybody way off guard. But I guess the good news is, like you said, they had something in place. And the scariest part is when they were MIA. That was weird.
Yeah.
They just left, and
So how do you bring that from the federal side?
yeah,
the-
that's a good question. It's a good question. I think like after the Avenue fire, we had our grips on something. We had our heads in a space that everybody kind of seemed like they realized that we needed to address this. And I don't know if it's time. I don't know what's going on there, but maybe it has kind of waned off a little bit, or we've lost sight. I don't know, because you definitely don't hear much about it anymore. The peer support stuff and all that ideology probably has some amount of merit to it, but at the same time, it's still, the players are still the same, and I think that ultimately becomes the problem is if the players are the same players that are perpetuating the culture that we live in, that's a hard division there. So I think that we started off on the right track for a second, and I'm not saying we've left the tracks completely, but maybe just less of an emphasis. So I don't know what we're doing. Are we waiting on something else to happen? I don't know. That seems to be kind of the mantra. It's a response, instead of being proactive about it. It's kind of a response thing.
Yeah, I agree with that statement 100%. Because,
So-
and that's what it is, you got this big event and then everybody's like, oh shit, we need to address this. And then you start to take steps and then it's like the focus shifts.
Right.
Or
You go back to the status quo.
yeah. Or
Yeah.
something else comes along that is like, oh, well, we have to address this now.
We got to address staffing.
Yeah.
Staffing's major.
Yeah.
What's that term? Normalization of deviance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we go back. That's what I think. What you see in the fire service, law enforcement, military,
Sure.
is something tragic happens. Whether it's your 9/11, something in your own department, Oklahoma City, Hurricane Katrina, which we learned a lot of lessons from. All of these things, and then we start to make changes, positive changes that need to be made.
Right.
And then after a year or 2 or 3, 5, you go back to we're good now. We've made these changes.
Right.
We're going to go back to resting and until the next one happens. Because, what did we see after 9/11? All over the place. T-shirts,
Oh, yeah.
stickers,
Yeah.
signs.
Flags.
Yeah.
And-
People
and
dropping
what-
stuff off.
And what did those stickers and everything, those T-shirts say on them?
Mm-hmm.
Never forget.
Never forget.
Yeah.
And here it is,
Right.
22 years later,
Right.
and what happened?
Yeah. Yeah. We're not doing any of those things anymore.
It's like we forgot about it. And
Yep.
how we felt. And
Yeah.
I still remember how I felt that day.
Sure. Yeah, and the sad part about it is that we've got guys that are on our job that were there. They went there. We don't tap into that. We don't, and we never have really, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's a lot of knowledge that
Didn't expect that. I just tried to trade it up.
there's a lot of knowledge that we leave on the table that we don't tap into. And I think that that's kind of where the inclusivity mantra comes from, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I
You
mean-
think it's just because of how cliquey everything is? And if you're not in that clique, then it doesn't matter what you know?
Yeah, I think that yes. There's definitely a component of that. There's definitely a component of that. It's, so I think that there is elements of, you can call it whatever you want to, a good old boy club, the popular people, name brand people, the influencers, whatever you want to call it. We have those, and it's whatever the rhetoric is that they're spreading, that is going to become okay. And so I think that those people have to be targeted first. It's just like anything else. I think you have to target those influencers and you try to convert them, so to speak, to a different way of thinking. And I've been pretty successful at doing that.
Come on, man.
Sorry.
Pulse point.
It's his first time.
Didn't bring a hat. Can't put his phone on vibrate.
Can't get here on time.
Can't get here on time. Has ice in his cup, and it keeps clinking around.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I agree with you 100%, Tyler. Because that's one of those things of, it's like you get, like the new person comes in and then they're told, you know, oh, being on that ambulance sucks or whatever. And how many times can they be told that thing before they start believing it?
No, it doesn't take long.
Yeah.
You probably watched it with this last group.
Oh, yeah.
What is it, a couple months? And then, they're walking around and acting like they shouldn't be there for some reason.
I have noticed that big time, Tyler.
And you've got a direct line to that.
I do.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know anything about lines. I'm lucky. I'm lucky in that regard that, I have two talking heads that they're pretty straight. Their heads are on pretty straight. And they've been fortunate enough, or maybe unfortunate enough, I don't know, to grow up around this. And, I've had the ability to control that rhetoric to some degree, and so they're pretty well aligned with what's what, and hopefully they can carry that with them for
going forward.
While. I think you laid a great foundation with them. I really do. And I'm not just because you're sitting here. It's what I've seen.
It's kind of a funny story, and I can tell you about that for a second. So the first 10 years of my career were blissful. Right.
I was going to ask you about this. I wrote it down just to come back to it.
So, those first 10 years, I did a really good job at convincing them that this was the best job in the world. Doesn't get any better than this. I was so convincing. As a matter of fact, when it actually came time for them to start deciding where they're going to go, I tried to undo it. And even the very person who convinced them of that stuff, I couldn't undo it. I shit you not. It boggled my mind that I could not undo that. Like I couldn't undo it. And so it came to be that this was the only option. And they got lucky in that regard that it was available to them as easy as it was. But in saying all that, they definitely have their heads on straight, and
they do.
From my perspective, they toe the line at not being, that guy.
The opposite, yeah.
Well, my interactions with him, I've interacted with one more than the other, just because we're in the same station. And I've gotten zero complaints. Every time I see him call in for overtime or he's trading time with somebody, I'm like, thank God.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. And I hear a lot of good stuff. I hope that continues.
Well, it's like Chris said, you laid the perfect foundation. I mean, I think we all feel that way in this room, just because we all have had experiences with both of them, and I think I've told you that, and I've told both of them that you guys are awesome.
Should have probably fed them a little bit more, though.
Right. Yeah.
They'll get there.
Maybe have them wear some name tags. I can't tell them apart.
No, I know. I can tell you the secrets behind that too, and because they probably don't talk about it, but they both have had celiac disease, so that's the whole thing.
Now I feel bad making the joke.
I do too.
Yeah.
Well, I own both.
Jeremy, you're a
now.
jerk.
I told them both. I said, "Man, you guys got to be upfront with this," and
but
they probably weren't.
Well, now you still want to keep some stuff to yourself, and
I know,
and
but,
and you don't want people feeling
Very
sorry
true.
for you or anything, or
yeah,
there is
It's-
that part of our job.
It's a little deeper than that with them. I mean, they're supposed to eat a certain way and all that, and I know that they didn't want to be that guy who needed special accommodations or whatever, but I'll leave that up to them. But but that's the reason behind it.
Yeah.
So
Good to know.
yeah, good to know. I'm sure they appreciate me saying it.
Yeah. Don't worry.
Oh, I think
It's all right.
I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, they'll be all right.
Especially, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it the way that the job has changed. Where whenever we came on way back when, like you just threw your money in and shut the hell up and ate whatever.
Oh,
and
yeah.
now it's more of, hey,
Sure.
what do you
Oh, no.
want? What do you like?
That's
If-
alive and well. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they're
So
assuming you got decent enough people on your crew. I mean, I know that it's talked about all the time where I'm at. So
yeah,
I mean, if you want something special, then you get it
yeah,
for sure.
I've seen it a lot more everywhere I've been.
Mhm.
All the details here recently, and
Yeah, as long as it's
it's
not
healthier
like
too. The food's a lot better than what it was.
Oh, yeah.
20 almost
For
20
sure.
years ago.
I agree.
as long as it's
agree.
not like some fad diet type thing or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if it's an actual need, I don't think anybody's going to
Yeah.
question it. But
I'm only gonna eat tangerines.
yeah, something expensive, something super expensive. But yeah, it's that in and of itself has been an interesting, it's really easy to disconnect yourself if you don't have anything else that you're worried about. Like you can get way disconnected, and I mean there was times that I did for sure. But then when that happens and you get kids on or whatever, then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, I got to get back in the game because now I got to worry about these guys and their future, and that it makes everything a lot more relative,
So
a lot
is
more
that-
important.
Is that one of the reasons why you try to talk them out of it?
I just don't. I mean, I don't really want to be public with this, but I just don't feel like our culture is one that I wanted them in, to be honest.
I get that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fair
Right.
enough.
And that's fire service as a whole, though.
I knew for a fact that there was no way to. I wasn't changing that. I wasn't changing the fact they were gonna be firemen, and that wasn't my request or I mean it was just obvious. That was it. That was the only option. I was just trying to control the destination, and I had no other destination in mind per se. I said just go find somewhere where it's going to be better to live, at least better weather. Something.
Amen to that.
Something.
Amen. to
And,
that.
Hawaii's nice year
I'm like-
round.
I'm like, you guys got
So
the
is
world-
San Diego, from what I
Oh
hear.
yeah. I mean, I was born and raised in Southern California, and the weather's definitely nice. I mean, there's a lot of other detriments there, but the weather's nice for sure.
So hold on, Tyler, I didn't know that. When did you move to the Midwest?
When I was 13.
Okay. So you spent a good chunk of your life out there. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
especially growing up and
Oh yeah,
going
No.
to school and stuff like that. You obviously made friends and
Oh yeah, no, I came here and it was culture shock.
I can imagine.
It was big time,
I can imagine.
big time. Yeah, big difference, lots of differences. But I can say definitively that there was much more opportunity here than there. I mean, there's that.
Yeah, that kind of is a little bit surprising because you would think, Southern California, there'd be all kinds of opportunity for different jobs.
There
and-
are. So I'm sure it's changed now just because of the way it is in the world, but nobody wants to work, it seems, these days. But at the time when I was growing up, I mean, it was very, very, very controlled, minority controlled. And it wasn't even black people that they're after. It was you had to be Asian, or you had to be Mexican. I mean, and it changed. But I mean, you want to talk about a melting pot, that's a diverse community. That is hugely diverse community. And if you weren't a particular race, then you were not getting hired by a fire department, period. It's just the way it was. And I mean, they have strict numbers that they have to meet based on the population. It's what drives it. Whatever the population percentage is of each one of those minorities, then that's what they have to meet that. And Yeah,
Which
so it's interesting.
It boggles my mind in especially a safety specific field where, I mean, this is life and death.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't have anything to do
No.
with that. It should be
No.
capability only. And
No.
again, that's me living in cotton candy rainbow land, but
Yeah.
I mean, we've
No,
had
I
this
agree.
conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I've had some really interesting conversations about it, and yeah, it's. I personally, I welcome anybody if you have the
Yeah.
capability. I don't care. I don't care what you look like. I mean, I'm blind to it, literally, but you have to be coming from Southern California for sure, and I think that that's just the way it should be, and we welcome everybody, and you know, if you can do it, great, come on.
Yeah.
But, you know, just continue to having hard set numbers, I think, is just a difficult thing to do, especially nowadays.
Well, it makes it disingenuous, I think.
Right.
It really does.
Yeah. But,
So,
you know, that's way out of my wheelhouse.
yeah, that's a policymaker.
Yeah.
That's even above, I think, like the department itself. That's a
Oh, yeah.
that's a
No,
city
for sure.
issue.
For sure. And I think we, you know, in all honesty, I think we do a pretty good job with whatever we can. Like, I think we do a pretty good job by encouraging it or you know, I don't really feel like we have a huge problem on our job, to be honest with you. I mean, I think
Yeah.
we're pretty, we've had these discussions in depth with multiple people, but by and large, I think, you know, I think we do a fairly decent job with it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think there are still problem areas, but there's always going to be.
I think that there's problem areas, but I don't think that the race issue is a problem. I don't think that it's racial. I don't think it's racially driven. We have big problems, trust me.
Yeah.
But I don't think that I think that people reach for that because it's available. And I think that social norms deem it untouchable, and you can't argue it. So it's available and accessible. So people reach for it, and nobody can say any different. But in the conversations that I've had are with people in those demographics. It's not with a group of white guys at a table. I mean, because I'm interested. I want to know.
Yeah.
Is it that bad? Is there a problem? Is there something I'm not seeing? And from everybody I've talked to that has integrity, they've all said definitively not. So I'm just taking them for face value.
Yeah. Well,
But-
that's the important thing, is to have those conversations.
Right.
And we can only go off what we're told.
And if it is, then we need to fix it.
Yeah.
I support that 100%. If it is a problem, we need to fix it.
Yeah.
But
Sorry to interrupt.
No.
No, Jeremy and I, we've had a decent amount of conversations and stuff, and we align very close. We agree on a lot. And I do agree. I think there's going to be some individual experiences, but that doesn't necessarily mean it makes up the whole, if that makes sense. You know
right,
what I mean?
exactly.
So, like,
yeah, exactly. I'm not saying that it's never happened, but believe me, and I'm not saying that I've done far wide-reaching poll by any means. It's just been the people that have been close to me, and I think that it's just the not wanting to really address the real problems. That's what I think, because the real problems are much more deep and they're much more difficult to handle.
absolutely. And I think, too, the biggest thing that I see that could be an issue, well, that I guess has been probably an issue even in other departments, is that the problem is if it's said, and it's said to an advantage, or if it's said in a way that wasn't exactly, it, then what it does is, when it does happen real, it's not taken with the same,
It's
amount.
like the boy crying wolf.
The boy
to me.
crying wolf,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that upsets me, and I'm not the only one,
Right.
obviously. So
Right.
it's one of those things where, it better be correct.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not just.
It better not be fabricated. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I want to go back to something that you were talking about earlier, and talking about the different mental health stressors on people in the rescue division. Can you elaborate on that? Like, what makes that so different than if somebody's on a pumper or a truck or whatever?
Sure. I think so. There's a couple of ways to look at it, and I think that some of it bleeds over. Obviously, I mean, we obviously go to a lot of the same things, but I think that there's also a huge expectation of if you run a call that's bad, and there's nothing acute to deal with at the time, but you gotta get people out of cars after wrecks, the fatality wrecks, or you got to recover bodies from the river, or whatever. It's whatever the host of situations may be, and it may be driven technically. We have specialty stuff to accomplish a lot of tasks, but as a whole, I think that the rescue division is looked at as some type of it's a specialty niche, and these guys in the specialty niche have the ability to deal with things a lot better than anybody else. I don't know that that's necessarily true, but it continues to be the way it is. So we'll be called out to do all these nasty jobs or things that realistically nobody else wants to do, and we do them, and we don't talk about it. And I consider that to be a little potentially problematic.
Why don't you guys talk about it?
Because we're so tough.
I like it.
Yeah.
You put your cape on one side at a time. Yeah.
Just like everybody else. Just like everybody else.
And honestly, that's something that I never really thought about that much of. Yeah, you guys we'll run car wrecks with you guys. We'll run house fires and you guys are there. I never thought about the body recoveries and the swift water side, all that other stuff that you do that like quote unquote normal or regular firefighters.
I mean, you always knew we were tough.
But I just
didn't know they were that tough.
Yeah. So I think there are a lot of things that happen kind of behind the scenes, and we do a pretty good job of being quiet about it. And I'm not saying that guys won't reach out if they need it necessarily, but I can tell you definitively it's probably not common. There's that. But I mean, I'll give you a good example. So on this last deployment we went on, as soon as we got there in theater, if you will, we went to Fort Myers Beach. So I don't know how much of the media you guys saw about that stuff, but I mean, it was widespread devastation. I mean, it's like basically taking a good-sized city off the map. And the first assignment we got, literally within a half hour of being on the ground, was to go and recover a couple of bodies out of a house that had been kind of washed out into the whole house was picked up and washed out into some shallow water. So like the only thing that was exposed was the roof. And they said they had confirmed that there was a couple of bodies in the attic of this house. And so the story is that there was a couple girls who had went on vacation to Fort Myers Beach, had no idea a hurricane was coming, and I don't know how that worked, but they didn't, and so it came basically upon them, and they couldn't find a way out. So they were on the phone with family and whatnot, and they said, we're just going to ride it out in the attic, which is not atypical.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but they did. They tried to do that, and they had tied themselves into the attic with random objects, extension cords and shower curtains, and it was like an Airbnb house. And so they perished in the attic, but it was ugly, really bad, and no other team that was there would be willing to go get them. So when we got there, they said, "Hey, we need you to go and do this. Are you willing to do it?" And we're like, "Well, yeah, I mean, of course
That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for." So we did, and those are just not the fun things. Those aren't. That's not. That's not on the advertisement.
Yeah.
But if you can take that, and I wasn't at 9/11, but I've talked to plenty of people who were, and that's even a more different situation where you're hauling, literally buckets of your buddies out, for days and days on end. So that's a big difference than just running, automatic alarms and whatever else. So it's all about volume, I think. It's all about the volume, and in Florida, we recovered, by the time it was all done, 8 bodies, but that's, I don't know how it works for everybody else, but that's
a lot.
That's a lot, but that's in a short period of time. And so that stuff just kind of burns in, over and over and over. And so it can be, I think it can take somebody, and if you don't have a good way of dealing with it, it will rapidly affect you, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So,
well, everybody's got some kind of container.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And every time you have one of those incidents or whatever,
Right.
you're getting a little bit more volume or fluid or whatever you want to call it in there
Right.
until eventually it's going to come out.
Yeah, the federal government has this flashy thing that they use on you. It's like a little flashy thing, and so
like
they
Men in
just flash
Black.
it on you, and then you forget about everything you saw.
Reminds me of Men in Black.
Yeah, it is. It's weird. It's weird. But,
Wait, I've been to Florida? What?
Yeah, I'm really surprised I'm able to recall any of this. But,
He was wearing his sunglasses.
Right,
yeah,
that's it.
I closed my eyes.
You close your eyes, yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's definitely a different world, and I think it's a world that people don't think about. But we definitely need it. I think. I mean, we need to have guys that have that ability. I mean, and I think it's. I'm not saying that it's the wrong perspective. I think it is the right perspective. But I also think that people need to understand what they're signing up for.
Yeah.
I think that there's that. I think that people should be doing a little bit of self-assessment as to whether or not what's going on in their life. Also outside of the job too. I mean, because that plays a big part in it. The more stressed out you are, the more, mental clarity is huge, right? So if you are dealing with a whole bunch of stuff outside, and then you throw all that on, sometimes that's enough to push somebody over the edge. But
Yeah, it's all the same container.
Mhm.
You don't get a different one for
right,
every little
Right.
thing.
yeah, it's interesting. I just read a book that was written by a guy that was in charge of developing a fighter pilot school, basically. The government has a particular program that they send fighter pilots through for the ability to think under stress, basically. And man, that was informative. And you could pluck all these different ideas that they have that have been instituted for some time, really, and put them right into the fire service. And if we can adopt some of those things, it would arm people to make better decisions or to be able to deal with things, at least at the time, better. I'm not saying that those things don't come up again later, but mental toughness is huge.
Yeah.
Conditioning your mind to deal with it at the time, and then conditioning your mind to deal with it in another capacity later. But
You think that's something that needs to start in the academy?
yeah, I do. I think that you could actually take the program that they use and pluck it out almost identically as it is and put it in the academy. I think that would be a huge thing.
Yeah. Well, because again, like we said, whenever they come out and they're exposed to
Oh yeah,
the old salty guy,
they don't know.
They don't
Yeah,
know.
They don't know.
It goes back to what we've talked about multiple times of setting people up for success.
Oh yeah, no.
And
I think
if
that's
you're
huge.
leaving out critical information,
Yeah.
which is what it is,
Right,
and
right.
making them, I don't think there's a way that you can prepare somebody 100% for seeing a dead body upside down in a car.
Yeah.
That's going to be a shocker no matter who you are.
I agree.
But I think there are things like that where it will allow them to navigate the emotions and deal with it a lot better.
And then on the other side of the equation is given people their best ability to think under stress becomes a safety issue. You know, I mean, if you can teach people how to make rational, thought out decisions under stress before they even come out and are in those situations where that could become something that affects them personally or other people. I mean, that's huge. I don't think we even have thought about that.
Yeah, no, we haven't.
No.
I haven't went through a class on decision making or anything like that.
Yeah, so I'll give you the title of the book. It's
Yeah, I
really
was going
good.
to say that. Yeah, that's actually the next thing I was going to ask Tyler was the name of the book, because it seems like that could be great for me,
Yeah.
Just, really for anyone. And, no, Jeremy, you're right. I mean, it's almost like nobody is prepared to see any dead body until it actually just happens. I mean, I remember there was a guy, I've been on for 15 now, but there was a guy that came on, maybe I think I had 5 years on, and his first call, everyone has that first call. Well, one of his first calls, at least it was the first day, was a really tragic MVA, that involved a mother and a child that unfortunately was in a bad state. And, obviously they didn't make it. He didn't make it on the job more than 2 months after that.
Yeah.
And that was the sole reason. And I'm not saying, like, for instance, maybe if he would have had more time, if he would have had maybe exposure to the book and the mental preparation, preparedness for it, maybe, who knows, maybe he would have been able to stay on. But I do agree that it should start at the academy level, because that's like the perfect time. That's when you're fresh and you're green.
So you could even take the principles that are in this and like transfer them into the driving scenario. So it's called The Art of Clear Thinking. That's the name of the book.
Okay.
It's written by Hazard Lee.
Hazard Lee.
Not trying to laugh, but
That's a badass name, isn't it?
That is a
I
badass.
want to say I've heard of other books written by him.
Hazardly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
think I've heard
So
It's a unique name. You don't
Well,
forget
no,
that.
you
name.
don't forget Hazardly. That's for sure.
I just want that to be my name.
We'll just start calling you Hazard.
Yeah. I think that would be awesome. But so you could take those principles and put them into the driving conundrum that we're in. That is another topic all in of its own right that actually ends up affecting mental health hugely, I think. I mean, these situations continue to happen over and over again, and the people that are involved in them, I can't imagine are in a good state. I wouldn't be, probably. I think that maybe we need to look at things from a different angle, and the fact that what are we doing to prepare these guys as a whole? Because you can take a lot of these things and they all are intertwined.
Yeah. Yeah, they all are. And then a lot of it comes back to training and preparation and being proactive, which for a vast majority of the fire service, it seems like, and I don't want to keep harping back to the whole, well, we're short-staffed and call volume and all this. The fact of the matter is, for a variety of reasons, we don't train as much now as we did 10 years ago.
No.
And that's just,
We do.
well, that's because you guys are superheroes.
You're tough.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, all joking aside, I don't know how much you guys train. Nobody does.
Yeah.
It's all so different, and
It is.
It's all over the map. I know that's we are constantly doing that, but I know that that's also very specific to us too.
Yeah.
So
You're saying there
I
should
don't
be
know.
some sort of standard for training.
That's
Maybe a national
that
standard
is
for
a
fire
wild
departments
concept. That's weird.
as a whole.
Yeah, that's
I
that's
don't-
groundbreaking. I've never.
I don't know. I'm a visionary. I don't know if you know that. Jeremy doesn't really explain what I do.
Yeah, I think so. I think maybe you're onto something there.
Just me thinking out loud.
Even if it's not a national standard, maybe something standardized. Something that we've been talking about instituting for a while. And again, we're not reinventing the wheel here as a task book concept, and this is specific to rescue stuff. But that being said, you could take the whole task book ideology and transfer it out into the suppression world and say, hey, here's a list of tasks. Here's a list of things that you need to know that you might not get in the academy, but you still need to know them. And so it's up to your captain, it's up to your crew, whatever, to
or you
get
mean like
those
have
things.
one of those books for every time you get promoted?
Yeah, I mean, you could put it in a lot of different
I don't
dimensions.
know. Something because there's always something to learn.
Are you trying to say that they put people out there that aren't well suited?
I would never say that.
I wouldn't either. But I could see it. I could see that happening.
I mean, we all have different levels of capabilities.
Yeah,
And a different level of knowledge.
That.
Some of us were ready a long time ago.
That's true.
Others of us who host a podcast.
I will be completely honest.
Don't know what the fuck they're doing ever. And it's been that way since day one.
I know. I've run into people like that.
In his defense, though, he had a head injury like 3 weeks into the academy.
Yeah,
and it never got
that
taken
does
care
affect
of.
it. But I on the brink of that promotional topic myself. I will tell you that 10 years ago I was ready, and that's all I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now it went into a different dimension, and I'm like, oh,
You think that's the thing? You think you're ready?
man,
at that time, and then it comes up, and now
you
here
don't
it
want
is.
it.
You're like, oh,
you're like,
do I want this? Am I ready?
Yeah.
Am I prepared? Am I going to do a good job? How many mistakes am I going to make?
I felt like I was ready at one point, and now I've gone past that point, and I am transitioning into a different dimension.
Yep.
And now you got to do it, and you're like,
Yep.
man,
Well,
you
I
could always
think
turn it down. I'm just saying.
that's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. I don't know that that's ever happened. But
I was going to say, has that ever happened?
I don't think so.
I don't think
I
so.
don't think it's ever happened.
Not that I know of.
Do you think part of that though is the amount of knowledge from 10 years ago to now that you've learned?
Oh man, I will tell you that definitively at that point there was. I mean, it's a vast difference. I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
Same.
I think it's
But-
a good thing that you're
Oh yeah.
questioning a little bit.
Oh, there's no way I was ready.
Yeah.
I mean, not even remotely. But I was at 23s, man. I thought I was ready.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's hindsight is, very real. But it's just it's a very interesting road.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think there's a lot to be said. A lot of guys say that, there's no difference if you're a driver before you're a captain. But I think that
There's a huge difference.
I think there's a
will-
big difference.
Yeah. I'll agree with that.
I think that's something that we need to be looking at.
Well, we were talking about that the other day of like that crawl, walk, run method, right? Of learning things. And there are things that you learn through the course of your career through the different plateaus. Like you're the brand new firefighter, and then you move up, you're the second firefighter, and then you're the senior firefighter.
Right.
And then you go from there to being the driver. And there's things that you learn about leadership and things on the job, and your view starts to open up, and you see a little bit bigger of a picture. And then you get in that formal leadership role of a captain.
Right.
And not only do you know all the jobs below you, but you're starting to learn that battalion chief level and all of that stuff. So you've got an even bigger expanded view.
Right.
And I think by skipping ranks, it's one of those things where you're going to have a knowledge gap. Now, that's not to say that you can't make up for that and learn all that stuff and all that, but how much lag time?
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of guys who have gotten promoted, in that way, not being drivers, and their success is different. It's just different. It's a different perspective. I think it adds a different perspective.
Yeah.
And there are departments out there that don't have a driver position.
True.
The senior person drives, or the company officer chooses who's driving. Because, any one of us, we could all be on the same crew, and Jarrett might be the junior person, but he's the best driver. So now he's driving the most.
No, I mean, I don't know what you guys think about this either. Is another concept that I know I've had to deal with quite a bit is our recent addition, or maybe not so recent now, but letting guys ride out at a certain point, putting a number on it. I don't know what it is now. 10 years, 8 years, 8 years.
8 years for right now.
So, that might work in a lot of places. That might be okay, but transferring that into the rescue dimension, that's a scary concept for me.
Yeah.
The amount of knowledge or critical decision making that is potentially there for you, having been in the position of riding out at the Independence Avenue fire is a good example. That's a scary dimension when you have so much more responsibility as it is as a rescue. Then all of a sudden you put that on somebody with 8 years. Okay, hey, now not only are you, probably lacking as it is in this capacity, but we're going to add all this other stuff, and it's really not possible in my opinion. But
I definitely understand that concern. I think it varies by individual.
I think so too.
And I think that a lot of it comes down to how well was that person prepared.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
If you have a captain who it's his goal or her goal to make sure that every one of their people is the best that they could possibly be to get them ready for the next step.
Right.
Then
I agree.
How long does that take?
Right. And like you said, it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that that's realistically how it should be. I think it should be more along the lines of, hey, at 8 years, you can start getting ready. And somewhere between 8 and who knows how many, then you'll be approved to do it. But you're going to have to prove that you have these capabilities somehow. And I don't know how that would look, but...
Yeah. Well, definitely there should be a rigorous testing process.
This magic wand thing is just a scary thing to me, and I hate to say it, but that puts guys at risk.
Yeah.
And so,
and on the flip side of this, we were talking about this the other day. Look at how our job is kind of trending, where you've got people that come in and they're here for a year, 2 years, and then they're gone.
Right.
So how much time can we allow that or for that to go on before we get to that point of, okay, it's time for the captain's test and okay, well, who's eligible to take the captain's test? Well, we got 4 guys.
Right. Right.
Okay, well, we've got 10 people that are going to retire.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, we're kind of in a trick bag. And it's just an interesting concept. Now, I will tell you this, something that it doesn't seem like a lot of people understand is the whole reason that you have 2 drivers on a rescue. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But that's the entire that was the entire thought process around it, is that you have 2 drivers so that there's always somebody to ride out. Mm-hmm. And that was the entire concept of it. It wasn't because you need 2 drivers.
It was the experience component.
It was the experience component. And so realistically, there should never be somebody riding out that's not at least a driver, which I thought that was smart. But we've deviated from that at this point, and now it's the entitlement syndrome again.
Yeah.
So and that's why I prefaced with the fact that it might work on a pumper, because your scope of responsibility is so much smaller.
Yeah.
So it might work. You might be able to finesse it on there a lot easier, but just specific to the rescues is something that I think needs to be looked at closer.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I mean, you would know better about that than anybody sitting in this room because you're in that world.
It's hard to convince people of that because it all comes down to the same old excuse of, well, we need you're trying to take money out of these guys' pocket. Yeah, but it has nothing to do with that.
No, it's got to do with capability and risk mitigation.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, that's something that the fire service as a whole, I mean, you hear it all the time. Well, it's a dangerous job. It's a dangerous job. Yeah, we do a lot of danger. The job itself is dangerous, obviously. Running into a burning building or crawling into a car that is upside down, those are not safe things to do. Mm-hmm. However, there are steps that we can take to mitigate a ton of that risk.
Right, yeah. Absolutely. No, it's a very sprawling topic at some point, but it also always comes kind of down to what are we doing? What are we doing for our people? How are we preparing them? How are we trying to make them more successful? I think that's what's been lost. We're no longer trying to make are young people successful or people that just get on? That's not a concern of ours.
No, it's just treading water right now.
Right. And we're much more interested in how, you know, you're going to make yourself successful in whatever dimension that is. Maybe, you know, the popularity game or you know, what have you. It's usually some kind of success that is unmeaningful, it seems, but it seems like that's where the priority is. So, you know, it's just about getting the right people to hear and subscribe to the right things to make the changes, and that's the struggle is making people understand.
Yeah.
So it's
and it's getting the rest of the job on board too, and making, you know, the people that have been on for a while see the need, and also the people that are coming in now, starting them off with a good foundation.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
Because like you were talking about earlier, it's a lot easier to do that little, you know, set the foundation and little course correction,
Right.
than to get them out and then try to make a big course correction 2, 3, 4 years in.
That's not the way to do it. Yeah, it's and at some point, you know, like I said earlier, we have to pay attention to it. We have to do it at some point. It's got to happen. Otherwise, we're just going to continue to go down. So I don't know. I think everybody's open to ideas at this point as far as how to do it.
Yeah.
But hopefully the good rhetoric keeps on spreading.
Yeah. Yep. That's our hope and it's one of those things of learn from other people's mistakes. We don't have to keep making the same mistakes over and over again.
There's no doubt about that. Yeah. That's one that we seem to do a lot.
Yeah.
Just over and over again.
Repeatedly.
You know, I don't know how many rigs we got to wreck, but
Oh gosh.
you know,
Or ambulances.
yeah, same old thing over and over.
Over.
Heard about another one the other day.
Yeah. That
And we
is it's a nationwide problem.
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
It's
So
What?
we did some investigating on this and said, hey, so historically for the last 20 years, you know, how has it looked for us? You know, have we went up and down, or is it at an all-time high? And scary enough, no, it's been pretty steady.
Yeah.
It's been pretty steady for a long time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's obvious that we were not doing something right for a long time.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I know for a fact that I've got exposure to other departments and how they do things, and it's much different than how we do things.
Yeah.
So that's.
I don't think, and I could be 100% wrong on this, and I readily admit it, and I'll be happy if I am. But at the opportunities for ambulances and fire trucks to crash are a lot more than the normal person. And we are driving in all types of weather
Right.
year round, especially here in the Midwest. I mean, it's not uncommon. I mean, we're going to get snow, we're going to get ice, and, well, we don't go? No, we still got to go. You're going to have some of that.
Sure, I agree.
But-
You're going to have some of it, and you can't. There's some amount of it that you can't escape, and there's a lot of times that it's not our fault,
Yeah.
legitimately, because you know
Yeah, but some of it
people are
is just,
crazy
yeah.
these days. But I will also tell you this: you know, we've spun our feet for how many years now? At least a couple, in trying to develop a program. While that entire time, the IFF has had a driving program readily available that we could have just adopted without spinning our wheels and trying to reinvent the wheel. And the, you know, in addition to that, we've got guys. I've got one that drives 35s at my station that has tried to be involved and had been knocked down over and over and over again. And, you know, I have a lot of respect for him and his ideas behind it. And he's got extensive experience with it. You know, bad experience with it. So I just don't understand why we continue to knock people down when they want to be involved in something, or when they're passionate about something, or when they want to develop something that's going to benefit other people. Why are we so interested in spending energy on knocking somebody down? You know, it makes no sense.
It's almost like you always hear the short answer is like money and politics.
Money and politics.
You hope that that's not it, but
well, there's definitely politics. We know
definitely
that.
Politics.
Definitely politics.
Well, and there's the money aspect of it too.
This city has plenty of money.
Well, I'm not debating that.
It's just convincing them to.
Yeah, it's any municipality. I mean, if you think about it logically, what is the fire service? They're just a big black hole of money.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
No.
We don't make money.
Yeah, there's no return.
Typically, yeah. So cities are going to go, look, you cost us every year. Why should we let you cost us more?
Sure.
But what we have to do, and I mean, this is for anything, like you can say mental health programs, training programs, new apparatus, whatever. Anything you can go, look, here, this is what you're paying now. If we are proactive in this area and spend this much money on the front end to institute this program or this training or whatever, these are the benefits. And that's what has to happen. And the fire service, it seems like as a whole, isn't very good at that. Like some departments are great at it and they have all of the things that we're talking about and they're running like a top. Most departments don't.
Right.
And
no, everybody's got same problems to some extent, but I think we have room for improvement. I think we can do better, and maybe it's along the lines of demonstrating good behavior, and then maybe they'll want to break free with some more money. I don't know, but I mean, I think that now of all times would probably be a good time to lobby for some of that. I mean, we've got more money coming into the city than we have in a long time, I would imagine. So, and I'm not a bean counter, but I can't help but imagine with all the stuff that we got going on, we got some money. So I think that maybe we should make a play for it, but it has to be logical. So
yeah. Well, and like I said, we got to sell it.
Yeah, we can't sell it because we're, continue to make the same mistakes over and over again, and I mean, bad behavior doesn't sell well. So,
well, we had a guest on the other day. He's a psychologist, and he was talking about that of basically the bad apples in the police department and the fire service. Right? He said it's 4 to 5%.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
That are the bad apples, but they
I can
make
tell you
up
who they are.
they make up 92 to 93% of the expenditure.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. No, we've definitely got some bad actors, and yes, they're easily identifiable. Typically, like I said, the deeper you dig, the more you find. But and they're sleeper cells too. Definitely, guys that don't want to be identified as that, but are really doing some damage behind the scenes. They're just kind of whispering. Yeah. And but they claim publicly something completely different.
Yeah. So
I don't know. We got to get a handle on that stuff.
Yeah. There's unfortunately, that's one of those things with the fire department of, we talk about it being a brotherhood and all of that stuff, and then it's not uncommon.
Yeah. We just got to get realigned to work for the greater good, I think.
Yeah.
But that's easier said than done. But you just, doing it by force is usually the best answer. You just force your way through it.
Yeah.
And
just put your head down and keep swinging.
Sometimes, yeah, man, that's kind of what I've done. You just at some point you make them swallow the pill, and then you show them how good it is. Aren't you glad that you did that?
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I can't disagree with you 100%.
Sometimes it's the only way.
I mean, it's
But that's all comes back to, the mental health side of it, of, having the mental fortitude to knowingly make people unhappy, or knowingly make yourself a target, or knowingly make yourself unliked, and you just have to expect it. And it's like the old adage of. That's in the leadership realm of, you can't be afraid to eat alone type thing. You may not be everybody's best friend all the time, and so that's not a young man's game, because that's a huge concern for everybody, especially early in their career. And I think that that's what is the difference. You know, when I say that the first 10 years was bliss, well, that's because you don't have to worry about that stuff. It's when you decide that you're going to try and do something that might be outside the box, or, you know, any one of those things, making somebody unhappy, or being unliked for a minute, or, you know, maybe you have a vision, or you can see something bigger than what's typically looked at. When you start to jump off that bridge, you know, then you really find out, you know, how hard it is to be in that position. So that's definitely made it an interesting road.
Well, if doing the right thing was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah, right.
So, that's
True
part
story.
of that's part of leadership, though.
Yeah, it is.
You have to that's your responsibility to make decisions.
It is.
And it's not always going to be popular. And, you know.
Yeah, I just think that more people need to understand that at some point in time in your career, you know, when you start getting rank, well, you got to start looking at things different, and you can't be afraid of that stuff. You know, you can't be afraid if you're going to call yourself a leader in this organization or the fire service in general. If you're going to call yourself a leader, you know, you have to stand up for what's right, and you have to stand up for people that are right, even if it's the unpopular position. So, yeah, we have that's the minority of people that have that ability, in all honesty. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be an interesting little bit of time here.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it all goes. But, you know, pills are getting swallowed.
Force feedings are happening.
Yeah, it's happening. It is happening. And that's the good news. So, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm all for it because, you know, we've been stagnated for a long time.
Yes, we
and,
have.
you know, the more communication and understanding and moving the needle in a positive direction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the ultimate goal is leave it better than you found it, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
And, you know, you have people laugh and go, oh, yeah, how are you going to make it better or whatever. Well, this is my way.
Right.
You know,
Right.
doing the podcast, talking about
Yep.
mental health, making people understand that it's
Yep.
okay to come and talk about this stuff. And, yeah, it's,
Ruffling feathers.
ruffling feathers.
Yeah.
So-
Stepping on toes and ruffling feathers,
Yeah.
man. That's what it's all about.
Well, if you notice too, there's always the people that complain the most about something, whether it's even like Cook Shack. The person that never cooks wants to complain about the food.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same with kind of how you explain too.
You know what I've noticed recently that seems to be a pandemic is people will accuse you of doing things. They'll make these lofty accusations, stuff that completely out of left field, and it's the very things that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. This has been a recent revelation for me. It's like it's happening. And it's like what they're like looking in the mirror kind of thing, and it's bizarre. It's a bizarre one. That one's got me spun out. I can't figure it out. Like, what's the logic and all that? I don't know.
Well, it's just a way of,
I'm not sure what the logic is.
Yeah.
it's just a way of hiding. But really is what it is.
Yeah, there's been some pretty crazy stuff, pretty crazy accusations out there. Way out there, but it's entertaining. It is that. It definitely provides entertainment.
And I think at some point you especially I've seen most fire departments are like that, where it's very cliquey and the rumor mill runs rampant.
Yeah.
And I think
For sure.
for the most part, it's one of those things where you just have to ignore it.
Oh, yeah.
And because
No, for
the
sure.
people that know you know,
Oh, yeah.
and the people that don't know you, if they have any integrity, they'll just ask you about it.
I don't know if you guys have any experience at trying to do these things, but when you start engaging and you know you're going to ruffle feathers going into it, and you accept that, and then there's a chronological process that happens, and you can almost predict it. You can watch people start to get uncomfortable, and they try to exert force. They demand it, and that typically works. Historically, that will work every time. Is if they tell you, they corner you, so you stop that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And typically people back off. If you push through that, that's when it gets interesting. Then they start to squirm, and they don't know how to attack.
Mm-hmm.
And it that's when the rumors start. That's when things are made up.
Yep.
And so.
Well, it's character assassination.
Yes.
That's
absolutely.
all it boils down to.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
They can't come at you head on, so they try to come
they
around
just
from the
start
side,
coming
from the back.
whatever way they can. So, it's being able to see through that. Hopefully that's what you hope, because, it's you hope that people can see it for what it is, but
yeah,
it's interesting. It's definitely, I don't know, should be an easier way. Maybe should be an easier way to go about this.
Yeah. I mean, well, and you hope, we start to trend in the right direction, and we start getting, the new people that are coming into the job. You can get a hold of them early and set them on the right path. And you hope that the culture will start to shift in a meaningful way, and will continue on that trajectory.
Right. So,
I mean, it's any type of culture shift it's painful, and it takes time.
No, it takes a long time.
Yeah. And
so I'm in the safety business on the side, and that's another aspect of all of this that provides me with some insight here and there. But we'll have companies call that want to change their safety culture, because they have a lot of injuries or whatever that have happened, and so I can apply some logic to some of this stuff just in having to deal with that stuff. Is just in a small company dealing with 50 guys or 50, and it's all union workers, so it's all kind of a similar mindset, and changing that culture at that level with that many people is difficult, and usually it takes around 2 years. And so to then try to take those theories or whatever and apply them into an organization that's the size of 1,000 plus.
Yeah.
I mean, you can probably just try and do the math on that. I mean, and you have to be so consistent for that entire time of positivity or changing it in whatever direction you want to go. It's a long road. It becomes a long road. And I mean, that was one thing that I think I said on some of the initiatives that I've had, is that I probably won't ever see the light of day for any of this stuff. Hopefully you can get it to the point where it changes or it sticks. And then, your only hope from there is that you leave somebody with something that they can enjoy at that point, but you need to go into this knowing that you very well may not ever get to actually participate in whatever it is you're trying to change.
Yeah.
So it might be this massive undertaking to change this one little thing, and then knowing that you probably won't ever get to actually enjoy the fruits of your labor, if you will.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah, but you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for
if
the
you're
job
doing it
as
for
a
the
whole.
right. Yeah, if you're doing it for the right reasons, that's true.
Yeah.
But it's a hard pill to swallow, in all honesty, and you're committing yourself to, a certain amount of mental health crisis just in that dimension. But yes, that's the way it has to be, and that's the mindset that everybody has to have at some point, especially if you're sitting at our level of your career. I mean, that you're not going to be here forever, and you're just trying to leave somebody with something better than what you have now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think what can help with with the mental health and that aspect of it, going through some kind of process like that, is remembering the reason why you are doing it.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
And then you got to celebrate the small victories that you have.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. Daily, anything, any positive move that you can see or make is definitely a victory.
Yeah.
So, for sure. But you got more alarms going off, man.
I had my watch going off. Goodness gracious. I thought I set everything off, but I forgot about the watch one.
So from now on, we're going to put a little basket out there for you whenever you come.
Phones and watches.
Phones and watches.
Phones, watch. All right.
And we'll just give you a bottle of water.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll leave the hat on the hook.
The hat on the hook.
You'll tell me to come 30 minutes before when it actually is
Yes.
truly 30
All you
minutes.
guys got to do is have a makeup artist here for one session and have him come and do a bunch of makeup on him to get rid of the sheen and all that. He'll remember a hat on his own.
Yeah, there you go. That's a brilliant idea. I've got a niece that is great with makeup.
Oh, gosh.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Hopefully she's done this before.
Yeah, she's really good at Halloween makeup.
Oh,
there you
no.
go. Man, you look perfect. Trust me.
Well, sorry. Pardon the interruption for like the third, maybe, what's this, fourth time now, Chris? What are we on?
Oh, I can't count.
Okay.
You didn't know that?
Well, I
Wait a
think this
minute.
is like the fourth time.
I thought math was your strong suit.
Yeah, adding, subtracting, and counting is different.
Oh my God. All right. Well, closing thoughts?
I don't know. I'm behind. It's these two this time.
You still get closing thoughts.
They did a great job. Jarrett sucks, but
I mean, I'm a work in progress.
put nicely, yeah. No, I mean, I do agree. Changes need to be made in the fire service, and I think it's going to take
A long time.
Yeah.
It's going to take some
Long
time.
time.
It will take some time, but I think it's going to have to be everyone being on the same page,
I think
and
so,
that's damn near impossible. Because even in a small department, if you have 30 people, like you're talking about the small companies of 50, that's 50 different opinions.
Oh yeah. Nobody sees
it's
it
trying
the
to
same.
create something that's going to get buy-in, and being able to get everybody to buy in. So how you get Jeremy to buy in is different than Jarrett, different than me, different than Tyler.
I will tell you definitively though, when people say it starts at the top, that could not be more true. It definitely starts at the top. And if your leadership structure isn't buying into whatever it is you're trying to sell, it's all the difference in the world. Having support versus now fighting against the grain is a massive difference.
Yeah.
So I think that's the start of it. I mean, the leadership structure has to subscribe, and as soon as they do, it makes it much easier for everybody else too, you know. But maybe that should shed some light on our current situation. You know, the leadership structure has to be a priority, and they have to subscribe.
Yeah.
So, you know, stay tuned. Hopefully that happens.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for stopping by. Remember, if you are struggling, reach out. There are resources out there. If you know somebody that's struggling, reach out to them. Let them know you care. Let them know what resources are out there. And, yeah, we'll see you next time. And thanks to Tyler and Jarrett for coming on. Appreciate it, guys.